What's going on, guys? CrustyKs here from GoldBoys.com. Excited to talk to you about Feast Week. We got the Monday slate on tap. We're going to talk about 4 games. Let's not waste any time. Let's jump right into it. So the first one here, Rutgers taking on Tennessee. Obviously, all these games are going to be neutral site. This one's being played in Las Vegas. Pretty interesting matchup here because you got Rutgers and Tennessee. Both teams haven't really played anybody. I think the toughest opponent between either of them was Mercer was the toughest opponent of either team. So really not sure what to expect here necessarily from either squad. But for me here, you look at both teams. Obviously Tennessee and Rick Barnes, we know the defense is going to be elite. I have some concerns about the offense if they start playing real teams, so this will be definitely a real test for them here. Rutgers, kind of the same thing. Their defense is decent, not as good as Tennessee's, but I do think that it's probably the stronger part of this squad. I believe their head coach even said that in an interview. They asked him about the team, and he said the defense was miles ahead of their offense. So for me here on a neutral, I like the under. I sitting at 142.5 right now. I'll be on that under. I think this game likely ends up being like a, whoever scores 65 wins the game type deal. Obviously, Tennessee's a pretty heavy favorite here, laying 14.5 points. Slight lean to them covering that, but like I said, I have a real hard time laying a number like that with a team that hasn't played anybody just yet. So give me the under 142.5 here in this game. I think it's likely a snoozer. Moving on to our next one, St. John's taking on Iowa State. Another really good matchup here. Obviously another neutral site. For me here, I like the Johnnies. Iowa State's a team that I've always, I'm always pretty impressed with. Their defense is always outstanding. But my concern here is this the team when they get away from Ames? They obviously don't play as well. This will just be their 5th game of the season. They've had a pretty light non-con. I mean, their toughest game thus far, Mississippi State, who isn't going to be very good this season. So I'm not sure, how good of a win that really is. St. John's, on their hand, obviously we saw them lose to Alabama. Haven't played anybody else really since then. But this Iowa State team, they're not Alabama. They don't have the guard play that Alabama does. I don't think they're going to score the way that Alabama does. And this St. John's team is absolutely massive. We look at their lineup, and obviously guys like Zuby, Dylan Mitchell, Bryce Hopkins. I almost said Bryce Harper, but this team is loaded. This team is big, and I think they can give Iowa State some problems. Iowa State's a team that we all know they rebound really well, and I think St. John's can give them some issues here with all this size. So while I don't love the St. John's offense, I think they're kind of a lot of how do I say it here? A lot of get to the rim, try to get fouled. Maybe not necessarily take like the best shots because they don't really have any true shooters on their team. Like even Ian Jackson, like I'm not trusting him to light it up from beyond the arc or anything like that. But this is a team that brings the physicality, and I think they can bring that same physicality to Iowa State and kind of play that bully ball that Iowa State wants to play. And they might do it a little better than Iowa State, truthfully, just because, like I said, they have quite a bit of size. So St. John's plus 1.5. I see plus 2 on Circa. If it moves, obviously the plus 2, take it. But I'd take the plus 1.5. You want to take on the money line? I think that's a good look too. I think that they are live here for sure. Moving on to our next one, Houston taking on Syracuse. I am on Houston minus 10.5. It has moved in the couple hours between me posting it and me recording this to 13.5. So this has moved quite a bit already. I still like it there. I like this probably all the way up to like 14.5, 15. This is just one of those spots where I think you get a Syracuse team who hasn't lost just yet, and maybe, like the optics of it, they look like they're a decent team. But then you go look at who they've played: Binghamton, Delaware State, Drexel, and Monmouth. And the Monmouth game was a 5-point win. So this is a team that hasn't played anyone. The metrics look decent. Like you see defensively, they're number 1 effective field goal percentage allowed. Surely that doesn't last here. This Houston team is really starting to find itself, if you've been paying attention. They looked really good against Rider. They looked good against Auburn, even though it was a tight game. This is the kind of spot where I think people realize Syracuse isn't good, and you kind of start to realize just how good Houston is. This is a blowout type spot, in my opinion. Like I said, expect Houston to dominate the glass. Expect them to dominate turnover margin, where, like Syracuse has been pretty fortunate. They've played a lot of lower competition, haven't really had to worry about turnovers, haven't had to worry about teams trying to force turnovers. So kind of makes their metrics look a little better than they actually are. I think this is a smash spot for Houston. I think this one gets ugly very quick. So the last one we're going to talk about here, this one is a late night game Monday night. Michigan taking on San Diego State. So Michigan's a team that I've tried to back a couple times this year already, and they've let me down time and time again. So it's a really interesting matchup in my opinion because Michigan's big thing here is obviously they have a ton of size. Morris Johnson, Yaxel. This is a team loaded with length and a team that can bother just about anybody. So looking at San Diego State, they lost to Troy in double overtime. I don't know if you watched that game, but it was absolutely insane. Magoon did come back. He did play 28 minutes. So expecting no limitations here. And I like the size of this San Diego State team. I think they can kind of combat what Michigan wants to do and ultimately just kind of make life a little more difficult on Michigan here. I like San Diego State plus 6.5. I also like the under here. I like the plus 6.5 a little more. Obviously, San Diego State really hasn't played anybody, so kind of one of those things where it's like might be a little weary trying to back them. But this is a team that returns a lot of talent they had last year, so there's that continuity there. And I just think this Michigan team, they're good, and I think they're going to be good down the stretch. But I think it's going to take some time for them to kind of figure out how to operate this offense. You've seen it, quite a few times. Honestly, you've pretty much seen it every game where Yaxel kind of seems a little lost. Like he finally had a big game last game against Middle Tennessee. But this offense, they tried like running all three bigs on the floor at the same time. They tried a few things, and it just hasn't really seemed to click just yet. And so, I mean, San Diego State, in my opinion, is not a team where you're going to just magically find it and all of a sudden get it to click. This kind of shakes out as a spot where I think, like I said, San Diego State can kind of hang tough. They're going to try and slow this game down, limit the Wolverines' transition. And under Dutcher, they've been outstanding at limiting transition offense. So I think they do just that. I think they keep this one close. Like I said, I like San Diego State plus the 6.5. That is the 4 games I want to talk about, though. It's a massive slate. I mean, there's a million games. If you have any other games you guys want me to go over or talk about, feel free to leave a comment or at me on Twitter or something, and I can try to get back to you guys. I will more than likely have a video for the Tuesday slate as well, because the Tuesday slate is pretty crazy. And then we'll kind of see how the rest of the week goes. I know with Thanksgiving and everything, not trying to make my video guy work too hard here. So as always, you guys know you can get all my official plays at GoldBoys.com. If you have a gambling problem, don't want to hurt a gambler. Thank you guys.